I used to believe beauty was a currency, and I was rich enough to be selective. I used to think I was choosing my future wisely. I used to believe rejection was my right. I never imagined I would become the one nobody chose. My name is Mr. Henry, and before I turned 25, I thought I understood how the world worked. I had a stable job, a strong body, and the kind of confidence that borders on arrogance. My family introduced me to many wonderful womankind, intelligent, compassionate women, but I evaluated them the way someone might scroll through an online catalog. Too quiet, too ordinary, not stunning enough. I convinced myself I was waiting for perfection, for someone who would impress my friends and reflect my imagined status. I never asked whether I was offering the same depth I demanded. When I rejected someone, I did it politely, even respectfully, but inside I ranked them. I measured their value by appearance and social appeal. Each no felt like proof that I had standards, that I deserved the best. I didn't see the subtle disappointment in my parents' eyes or the quiet dignity in the women who walked away. I told myself I was being rational. Love to me was an investment, and I was determined to invest high. By the time I turned 25, I had dismissed more possibilities than I could count. Then one rainy evening, on a highway slick with overconfidence and speed, everything changed. The crash was sudden and violent. In a matter of seconds, the body I had trusted betrayed me. When I woke up in the hospital, the doctors spoke carefully, but their words cut clean: spinal cord injury, permanent damage, limited mobility. I would never walk the same again. As weeks turned into months of rehabilitation, the silence around me grew heavier than the braces on my legs. The same world that once felt open now felt distant, and slowly, painfully, I began to understand what it means to be measured in seconds and found lacking. Rehabilitation rebuilt my muscles, but it dismantled my pride. I remember the first time I saw my reflection sitting in a wheelchair. I searched for the confident man I once was, but all I could see was vulnerability. Word spread quickly among relatives and acquaintances. The tone of conversation shifted from admiration to sympathy. Some of the same families who had once considered me ineligible match now avoided the topic entirely. I decided to test the waters myself. I reached out carefully, humbly to women I might once have overlooked. Not the perfect ones I had imagined before, but kind, sincere people I thought might see beyond my condition. One by one, the responses came. Some were gentle, some were awkward, some were brutally honest. I'm not ready for that responsibility. I want a different kind of future. I'm sorry. Even a woman I would have once labeled as not attractive enough declined with firm politeness. That was the moment karma stopped being a concept and became a mirror. I wasn't angry at them. How could I be? Hadn't I done the same? Judged swiftly, prioritized surface over substance, chosen comfort over character. I began to see that rejection isn't cruelty. It's preference shaped by fear, desire, and social conditioning. But I also saw my own hypocrisy. When I had options, I valued aesthetics over empathy. Now that I needed empathy most, I hoped someone would overlook aesthetics. The irony was sharp. Nights were the hardest. I lay awake replaying past meetings, remembering smiles I had dismissed, conversations I had cut short. I wondered what might have grown if I had chosen differently, not just in love, but in humility. My disability did not make me less human, but it forced me to confront how shallow my humanity had once been. The world had not suddenly become unfair. It had always been selective. I had simply moved from the chooser to the chosen, from the evaluator to the evaluated. It would be easy to end this story with bitterness, but that would mean I learned nothing. Karma at 25 was not a punishment. It was a revelation. I began therapy not only for my body but for my mind. I volunteered at a community center, mentoring teenagers who struggled with self-worth. I listened to their fears about appearance, popularity, and acceptance, and I recognized my younger self in their words. Slowly, I started building something I had never prioritized before: character. Not the kind that impresses at parties, but the kind that stays steady in adversity. I stopped chasing validation and started cultivating value. Months later, I met someone not through formal introductions, but through shared service. She didn't treat me like a tragedy or a project. She challenged my opinions, laughed at my sarcasm, and asked difficult questions about my past. When I told her how I used to judge people by their looks, I didn't try to excuse myself. I owned it. For the first time, I wasn't presenting a polished image. I was presenting growth. Whether or not she becomes my wife is almost secondary to what I have already gained. I no longer measure worth by appearance, hers or mine. I understand now that real beauty is resilience, compassion, and integrity. If someone chooses me, it will not be because I meet a flawless standard, but because I meet them with honesty. My wheelchair is part of my story, not the end of it. And if karma taught me anything, it is this: the standards you set for others will one day stand before you. The question is not whether you will be judged, but whether you have grown enough to welcome that judgment with humility.